This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, everyone. Bruchim Abbaim, Shalom Aleichem. Hope everybody is doing well. We're learning Hilchos Tzitzis. And let's recap what we learned yesterday, just so we know what to do l'maisa. The Mechaber said in Sif Tes that before you make a bracha on the tzitzis, you should look at the strings to make sure they're kosher, so you don't make a bracha levatala. The Mishna Berura said not just the strings, but the area of the hole as well. Now that's very important. The Mechaber says the strings, he doesn't say the hole. The Mishna Berura added the hole. That means checking the area of the hole is not as vital, although you need to do it, but it's not on the same level as the string, as it's not mentioned explicitly in the Mechaber. We'll see where that makes an afkamina. Now, the Mishna Berura immediately jumps on the fact that the Mechaber said you need to check tzitzis for the bracha. What about you have to check tzitzis because you need to be Mekai in the midst of tzitzis? So, the Mishna Berura says, well, the ikar reason to check is for the bracha because of the chaymer of bracha levatala, but he brings from many achronim that one needs to check to be Mekayim the mitzvah as well. Now, we mentioned there's a very big nafkamina between the various reasons for checking. If it's only for the bracha, we don't make a bracha on the Talis Katan. You wouldn't have to check a Talis Katan. But if it's to be Mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis, well, you're wearing the Talis Katan to be Mekayim the mitzvah. Also, you don't want to be Mavatel, wearing a four-cornered garment without tzitzis. And therefore, the conclusion of the Mishna Berura is you not only have to check for the choymer bracha levatala, you also have to check for the mitzvah of tzitzis, and therefore it would apply to a Talis Katan as well. But here is where it makes a little bit of a difference. As we mentioned, the Mechaber said you check the strings. The Mishna Berura was the one who added that you check the hole. Therefore, the Bir Halacha comes out that you could be lenient regarding Talis Katan and just check the strings and not check the hole. Checking the hole itself is a chumrah. Checking the Talis Katan is a chumrah. We're not going to sort of heap one chumrah on the other. We're not going to require you to check both the Talis Katan and the hole, although that would be optimal and ideal. Okay, so that was just a quick review of yesterday. Let's see Sif Yud. Im loivesh Talis Katan be'oid she'in yadav nekiyos. If you're putting on your Talis Katan, your hands are not clean. Yobashenu b'loy bracha. Put it down without a blessing. Don't make a bracha. When you wash your hands, so then you sort of move around your tzitzis and you make a bracha on it. Or what we do is, we put on the Talis Katan when our hands are not clean. When you make a bracha on the other talis, yivarich alav, v'chavin lifter gamazeh, ve'ein sarch lemashmesh batzitzios shorishan. And you don't have to feel around the tzitzis of the first one. In other words, if you're going to make the bracha later on the Talis Katan, you want to reposition it so that it's in some way over lasiyasan. But if you're making the bracha on the Talis Gadol and you're pattering the Talis Katan, you do not have to reposition the Talis Katan. Now, I'm going to share with you a halacha that that's why it's so important always to learn halacha. I knew this halacha, but I think I needed to be reminded of it. Namely, okay, we don't make a bracha on the Talis Katan. We make a bracha on the Talis Gadol. But when you make the bracha on the Talis Gadol, you need to have in mind it's covering your obligation to make a bracha on the Talis Katan. I think that could easily be forgotten. I think I need to be mechazik in that. In other words, when you make the bracha on the Talis Gadol, it's not enough. You're being mechavein to Mekayim the mitzvah d'oraisa of tzitzis. You're being mechavein leman tizkru v'asiyasem es kol mitzvosai. You also have to have explicitly in mind that it's covering the Talis Katan. Says the Mishna Berura, Sif Katan Chav Gimel, Yemashmesh b'tzitzis. By the way, another ramification of this that Dersha brings, that if somebody is, let's say, getting up very early, and they're putting on talis and tefillin, let's say, before the Zman, and they can't make the bracha, so when the time for the bracha comes, you also use this technique of being yemashmesh betzitzis uvetfillin. Then it's considered a little bit as if you're putting it on then. Even though we hold by all mitzvahs you have to make the bracha mamish before you perform it. Hachashani. Here it's different because what mishum nakati gavra lechazi, the person was not fit. Now, is being yemashmesh ma'akev the bracha? Or do we say it's just the nice thing to do? So the Dirshu quotes Rav Moshe and Archaim Chelek Daud Siman Zayin, that you could say you're not obligated to be yemashmesh. So only that there should be a heker to be mekayim the mitzvah, but it's not ma'akev. Why? Because you make the bracha now on the ma'aseh levisha that you did before. And besides that, Moshe says, every moment you're wearing a garment, it's like a new ma'aseh, it's like a new act. So if it's like a new act, so the bracha is going on what we said the bracha is going on the future ma'aseh of wearing. What about somebody puts on his talis in Beis HaMerchatz? So Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul says you put it on, and when you come out, you're yemashmesh like this eitzah. Sif Katan Chavdalad V'chavein Liftar V'mechavein Tepater V'hachi Nohug Bizmanenu Levarch Al Talis Gadol L'chavein Liftar B'zeh Talis Katan. Wow. So our minhag is to make a bracha on the Talis Gadol and to pater the Talis Katan. V'hachi adav tfei. This is much better. Mimash noya geneza anoshim than what some people do. Shemevorchin ala Talis Katan v'teka mevorch ala Talis Gadol shagar min bracha she'ena tzricha. Because what's definitely wrong is to make a bracha on Talis Katan and immediately a bracha on the Talis Gadol, because since they're basically the same bracha, it's a bracha she'ena tzricha. V'oid afilu im yafsik zman ruba bein Talis Gadol and Gadol. Even if there would be a significant interruption between the Talis Katan and Talis Gadol, kama pama ein roi levarch alav. Many times, meaning don't say, okay, so I'll be mafsik, or I'll interrupt. Because many times your Talis Katan is not kosher. It's not pasuach rubai, or it's more than the shiur, or let's say somebody slept in it in night, or kaman b'siv tazayim in Mishna Berura. And for that reason, Rav Shlomo Zalman says, the minhag is, during Slichos, when there's a very long time between the Talis Katan and the wearing of the Talis Gadol, you still don't make a bracha. Now, here the Mishna Berura is saying explicitly, our minhag is, we make a bracha on Talis Gadol and we're mechavein lifter of Talis Katan. So Rabbi Yeager gave a mnemonic. That means that when you put on your Talis Gadol, you need to think three things. Number one, to be mechavein, to mekayim the mitzvah. Number two, to mechavein, that you're wearing tzitzis in order to remember the mitzvahs of Hashem. And number three, you need to think you're making the bracha to pater the Talis Katan. So the remez Rabbi Yeager gave was v'hachud hamashulash lebimhera yanatek. So you're having three things when you put on three kavanos. The Dirshu brings down interesting possibility from the Eishal Avram of Buchach, that if you're afraid you might forget to be mechavein for the Talis Katan, you can be megala daitoi one time in your life that hineni mechavein kol yomai shekol zman she'avarech al hatalis gadol eftar hatalis katan, and that works. And the Marsham says a similar idea, that you could make such a Tanai by Ner Chanukah, that if, let's say, you put out the Neiros after it burnt a half hour, you don't have to make a Tanai every time, whatever's extra I'm allowed to use. You could make one Tanai and it works mistama. By the way, the Ben Ish Chai says, for those who say L'Shem Yichud, it's good to add to the L'Shem Yichud, V'hareini mechavein liftar b'bracha zu gam hatalis katan she'alai. So here's what we're going to do. Right now, in our Seder right now, we'll make a Tanai that whenever we make the bracha on the Talis Gadol, it should pater the Talis Katan. And anyone who's listening through Shomea Ka'ina, you could also be yotzei that. But it seems like it's better to have this in mind specifically every day. Fine, Sif Yud Aleph. Iker mitzvahs talis katan lelav shay al begadov kidei shetamid yireo v'yizkar mitzvahs. The Iker mitzvahs talis katan, like Reb Chaim Kanievsky, is to wear it on top of your shirt so that you always see it and remember the mitzvahs. So here's the question. We don't really do this. I mean, not everybody's on the screen. Maybe the people are not on the screen. They're hiding. They're wearing it on top. Could be. Stephen is back. Shlomi is back because he's not wearing the Talis Katan over. So nobody right now on the screen is wearing it over. So why is that? The reason is it's very interesting, because even though the Shulchan Aruch, based on the base from the Tur, from the Ritva, says to wear it on top of the clothing. Uvaksavim isa the Talis Katan tachas begadav. Al pi the Arizal, you wear it under the shirt. And the Dirshu quotes the Bir Halacha later on, Siman Yud, that our minhag is to wear it under the shirt. Even though the Chazon Ish was noig to wear it on top of his shirt. Lamaisa, the minhag is, there are some people, there are people Erev Shabbos, you change Talis Katan and make a new bracha. If you wear a new Talis Katan, let me confirm before I answer that. But if somebody has, let's say, a special Shabbos Talis Katan, do you make a bracha? Let me confirm before I answer that. The Mishna Berura continues. V'kasav Magen Avram, Da'al kapanim tzarich sheyeh tzitzis mibachutz. Even if you're going to wear the Talis Katan under the shirt, the tzitzis should be out of the shirt. Not like those who hide it in the corners. Those who walk among the goyim, they're still when you make the bracha, at least the tzitzis should be apparent, the amount of time it takes to walk dalat amos. Now, what about regarding wearing? Do you need to wear an undershirt under the Talis Katan? So the Dirshu brings from Shas Yeshua Siach Yitzchak. Don't put it on your bare body. And Bechlal, then your tzitzis is absorbing all your sweat. The Arizal says to wear it under the begadim. It means under the shirt, but not under the undershirt. Also, Reb Chaim Kanievsky gives a halachic reason why you should not wear the tzitzis on the flesh, so that the Talis Katan should not be like a beged, which is made l'kabel zeya, which is pater from tzitzis. Now, that would come out that these tzitzis for kids that are like undershirt tzitzis, Reb Chaim would have a problem with, because it's made to absorb sweat as well. So it seems like it's definitely best not to have the tzitzis on your bare skin. Now, what does the Mishna Berura mean, like those people who stick the tzitzis in the corners? It doesn't mean like those who have it in their pants, because as we're going to see in a bit, that the Mishna Berura speaks in the next Sif Katan, that the Mishna Berura says is not proper. But it means that they hide the tzitzis in like a corner of the garment of the tzitzis itself. Okay, so now let's see the next Mishna Berura a little bit. Yirehu. You want to be able to see it. Kamadach Siv u're'isam oisai u'zachartem. Those people who put the tzitzis in their pants. Not only are they hiding their eyes from that which it says that you need to see it. I mean, the pasuk says explicitly in this week's parsha, you need to see it. They're disgracing the mitzvahs. They will have to give an accounting for this. Umashoimrim shaholchem en anachim. They say they go among goyim. Lezeha yadai sheyasima tzitzis haknaf. For that, it would be enough to put the tzitzis in the corner of the garment. We'll read this more later. I do believe that when the Mishna Berura says that it's considered a disgrace, he means it's because michnasayim, like we had earlier, means that it's in the underwear. And that's a particular bizayon. But what if somebody's wearing undergarments and the tzitzis are in the pants? It's not definitive that the Mishna Berura would call that a disgrace. But nevertheless, the Mishna Berura would say it is a violation of a re'isa ma'asai, because the pasuk says you need to see it. We will continue with this Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Wishing everyone a wonderful day. Kol tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.